and there is a nafs called mutma'innah, which is finally a soul at peace in the dhikr, in the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The first nafs, if you look at it at another aspect, which our scholars have identified, is that there is a vegetative soul, which is called the nafs al-nabatiyah, and its reality and source is water. Its reality and source is water. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ. We placed from every living thing, we made it out of water. It is water that is the source of our own cells. And water is an element that can be polluted. And if it is, it's called khabith or najis. And it can be purified. And if it is, it's called tahir. And if it is purified and purifying, in other words, not only is it pure in itself, a salih, but if it's muslih, then it's called tahur. So the human being can be one of three things. He can be like water, which is the source of his nature, khabith or najis. He can be tahir, he can be pure, and he can be tahur. Not only pure, but purifying. And the Prophet ﷺ was somebody who wherever he went, he purified people because he himself was pure. We know that the angel split his own chest and performed the open heart surgery in the middle of the desert and took his soul out. His heart was taken out, and what was poured on it? Ice water. Ice water. It was water that purified the Prophet. Now the interesting thing about ice water, if you look at the nature of water, water, unlike other substances that we see around us, water can be within the natural temperatures that exist on this planet, can go into the three categories. A water can be a liquid, it can be a solid, and it can be a gas. And this is very unusual to find this in creation, but water can be all three. And this is the nature of the self. The self can be one of three. It can be either like a gas, in which if it's heated by the fire of shahawat, if shaitan, which is heat, heats up the soul, then the soul begins to take on a gaseous form and becomes arrogant and rises and dissipates into the air until it's nothing. Or it can be like water in its liquid form that takes on the shape of the container that it exists in. And this is the nature of people who, in good company they're good, and in bad company they're bad. In other words, mutadabbibun. And this is the nafs al-lawama. It's the reproachful self that goes between good and bad. But also the soul can be like ice. And this is why the Prophet ﷺ said, Allahumma tahhirni bil-ma'i wal-thalji wal-barad. Purify me with water, with ice, and with hail, which is rain made of ice. In other words, the soul itself can become fixed and firm with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, can be like purified water, but thabit. And this is the nature of the Muslim. They should be people that have thubut, or be established in their deen, not able to waver, so that they can exist in any situation, and they can't be broken easily. They can't be destroyed. They have to be strong in their deen. Now if you look at purifying the self, the self, there are the most destructive element of the self is two things. The first is what is called al-quwwa al-shahwaniyya, which is the lustful or the appetitive self. And this is the self that desires. This is the self that wants things. This is the self that lusts. This is the self of the batan and the farj, of the stomach and the private parts. And if one submits to that self, one is taken to destruction. The other self is called al-quwwa al-ghadabiyya. This is the other power within the soul. And this is the power which is irascible. It's the angry self. It's the angry soul. And if this is not purified, at its worst extreme, it can literally cause somebody to kill another human being without justice. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the third thing that the self can be destroyed by is incorrect understanding, is incorrect the heart itself, the cognitive faculty of the human being doesn't understand the truth. It misperceives creation. It sees things that are not there. It begins to worship other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whether this worship be embodied in love of the dunya, in materialism, or in idolatry. And the idolatry can be subtle or it can be crude. The crude idolatry of the animist is rare in our age. We now live in an age of subtle idolatry. The idolatry of ideas. The idolatry of the self itself. In other words, the self is elevated to the status of God. And this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran. Those who اتَّخَذَ إِلَهُهُ هَوَاهُ. The one who takes his own caprice as his God. His own whims. He obeys his own whims at everything they command him. And this is what people in this culture do. They obey their own whims. And all of the advertisement is calling people to obey their own whims. So and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sums up these three in His ayah, الَّذِينَ لَا يَدْعُونَ مَعَ اللَّهِ إِلَهًا آخَرَ وَلَا يَقْتُلُونَ نَفْسًا حَرَّمَ اللَّهُ إِلَّا بِحَقٍّ. They don't call upon other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They do not kill a soul without right that Allah has given it sanctity. وَلَا يَزْنُونَ. And they don't commit fornication. In other words, their understanding is correct and they are in control of their quwwah, al-ghadabiyya, their irascible self, and they're in control of their lustful self or their appetitive self. Because the extremes of submitting to these self will take people to killing and take people to fornication. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says there are people that don't do that. And that is the mu'min. And how does one perform that? How does one achieve that? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that fasting itself is what teaches the human being to do this. Fasting itself teaches the human being. لَعَلُّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. And this is what Ramadan is. And moreover, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives the gift in Ramadan of locking up the shayateen. In other words, the elements, the obsessive elements within the self that are whispering and commanding people, the impulsive voices in the self that command people to do wrong things, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala suppresses those, and you are left only with nafs, hawa, and dunya. So a major enemy is literally curtailed in the month of Ramadan. But there are still three other enemies that must be conquered. The nafs, the hawa, and dunya. And this is why in the month of Ramadan, what you are expected to do is suppress your sexual appetite. During the daylight hours, and particularly towards the last portion of Ramadan completely, because the Prophet ﷺ, they said about him, if the last 10 days of Ramadan came, كَانَ يَشِدُّ إِزَارَهُ. He used to tighten his izar. In other words, he did not go to his wives. So this is a time when one disciplines the soul, one disciplines the stomach, one disciplines the genitals, and then one prefers the akhirah over dunya. And this is why during Ramadan, one is expected to do as much worship as possible. And towards the end of Ramadan, it is preferred that you abandon the world altogether and enter into the state of i'tikaf. To actually go into the masjid and completely abandon the world, including your work. Completely leave the world for a short period of time to disconnect the heart from the deep love of dunya that exists in Bani Adam. And if you conquer, shaitan is conquered for you in Ramadan. But if you conquer your nafs, your hawa, and dunya, then at the end of Ramadan, you are ready to be of the muttaqeen, to enter into the world, and you're ready to be a khalifa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if you cannot do that, then we're not ready for anything. If we can't defeat those four enemies, we can never defeat the enemies outside of ourselves. And the difference between the Sahaba and the rest of the people is there are people who conquered their four enemies. And because of that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala empowered them to conquer the world that stood before them. When they went into Persia, the Persians melted before them. When they went to the Romans melted before them. And people have yet, historically, to explain the phenomenon of the conquering Muslims that spread out from the Arabian Peninsula in the 7th century and moved within a short period of time to China and Andalusia. They have yet to explain that phenomenon with their own material sciences. They don't understand how it is that those people who had less, they had no civilization prior to that. They had no military experience of any seriousness. They were going up against civilizations that had centuries of organized warfare, centuries of organized strategy